Hello, English learner. Welcome back to English Speaking and Listening Club. I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. Not literally, because you're watching, but in your mind. I want you to picture a room. It is a very small room. The walls are bare. There is a single window, and through it, you can see a world that is busy and bright and moving forward. But in this room, there is silence. There is you, and there is nothing else. No money, no connections, no special tools, no lucky break. Just you, your breath, and a feeling in your chest that won't go away. A buzzing, a humming, a dream. It's a dream that feels too big for this small room. It's a dream that speaks a language you haven't quite mastered yet. It whispers to you in English. This is where my story begins. Not with success, not with fluency, but with nothing, absolutely nothing, but a dream. And if you have ever felt that your dream is too big, and your starting point is too small, then this conversation is for you. This is for the person who looks at their resources and sees emptiness. I am here to tell you that the emptiness is not the end of the story. It is the first, blank, beautiful page. I grew up in a place where dreams were a luxury, where survival was the daily curriculum. My parents worked until their hands were raw, just to put food on the table. The future was not a landscape of possibilities. It was a narrow path, well worn by generations before me. English was not a language of connection for me then. It was a symbol of distance. It was the sound coming from the old television set. The voices of people who lived in a different universe. They spoke of things I could not touch, of opportunities that felt like fairy tales. I would listen, my ear pressed against the speaker, not understanding the words, but understanding the feeling in their voices. It was a feeling of ease, of confidence, of a world that was wide open. And in my small room, with my nothing, I wanted that. I craved that openness with a physical ache. But how? How do you reach for a world that exists only in sound when you have no ladder, no map, no guide? The gap between my life and that world felt like a canyon. And I stood on the edge, with empty hands. So I did the only thing I could do. I started to collect sounds. I became a scavenger of English. Every broken piece of the language I found, I kept. A word from a song lyric scribbled on a scrap of paper. A phrase from a movie poster I saw in town. The greeting from a tourist who passed by. These were my treasures. I stored them in my mind like precious gems. But they were silent gems. They lived in the quiet museum of my thoughts. I could arrange them, look at them, understand their meaning. But I could not make them sing, because speaking was a different kind of magic. It required a courage I did not have. It required me to take those silent, perfect treasures from my mind and risk breaking them as I pushed them out into the air. With my untrained mouth, the fear was not of English. The fear was of destruction, of taking something beautiful and shattering it with my own voice. So I stayed silent. 4 years. I built a rich, intricate world of understanding inside myself. And I lived there, alone. The poverty of my situation was not just in the empty room. It was in the silence. It is a terrible thing to have thoughts and feelings and personality and intelligence. And to feel locked inside a glass box. You can see out. You can understand the world outside. You can react to it, think about it, have opinions on it. But you cannot participate. You are a ghost. You smile and nod. You point and gesture. You use the little words you know are safe. Yes, no, thank you. But the real you, the you that has jokes and stories and questions and ideas that you is trapped. That is a deeper poverty than having no money. It is a poverty of spirit. And I was so poor. My dream was to be rich in expression, to be able to give my thoughts as a gift to a conversation. But every time I tried, the fear rose up like a wall. It said, they will hear your accent. They will see your struggle. They will know you come from nothing. Stay quiet. Stay safe. Keep your dreams inside, where they can't be laughed at. And for so long, I listened to that voice. It was a voice that pretended to protect me, but it was really a jailer. The turning point did not come in a dramatic moment. There was no lightning bolt. It came on a perfectly ordinary day in my small room. I was listening to a man on the radio speaking English. He was talking about the power of small actions. He said, a giant is not built in a day. It is built by laying one brick every single day, even on the days you don't feel like it. And for some reason, that sentence broke through. It landed in my empty room and echoed. One brick. I looked at my nothing, and for the first time, I didn't see a void. I saw a space to lay a brick. What was my brick? It couldn't be fluency. That was the giant. That was the distant castle. My brick had to be something so small, so simple, that even my fear couldn't argue with it. My brick, I decided, would be a sound, not a word, just a sound. The R sound in English, my native language, had a different R, a rolling, quick tap. The English R was slow, deep, like a soft growl in the throat. I had always avoided it. That day, I embraced it. I stood in front of that single window, looking out at the world I wanted to be part of, and I made a sound. R. It felt unnatural. It felt forced. My throat felt tight. I did it again. R. And again. 10 times. 20 times. My mouth was getting tired. It was the most unglamorous, unimpressive act you could imagine. There was no one to hear me, no one to applaud, just me, in my nothingness, making a silly sound. But when I stopped, my room did not feel empty anymore. It felt occupied. It held the echo of my effort. I had laid my first brick. It was a brick of pure, simple action. It had nothing to do with grammar. It had nothing to do with vocabulary. It had everything to do with command. I commanded my mouth to do something new, and it obeyed. That tiny feeling of command was a spark in the darkness. It was the first currency I ever earned in the economy of confidence. The next day, I laid another brick. The TH sound, the tongue between the teeth. It looked ridiculous. I did it in the mirror. I looked like a child making faces. But I did it 50 times. The day after that, I connected to sounds. Red, just the word red. I said it 100 times. Slow, then faster. quiet, then loud. I was no longer a passive collector of English. I was an active builder. My mouth was my construction site, and every repetition was a brick cemented into place with focus and patience. This was my secret. While the world saw my nothing, I was building a fortress inside my own mouth. I was building it in the quiet, where no one could see. This daily practice became my ritual. It became my religion. It was the one thing I could control. My circumstances were poor. My opportunities were few. But my commitment to these 10 minutes a day was rich. It was mine. I began to see my fear not as a monster, but as a signpost. The fear always pointed to the exact thing I needed to practice. Afraid of introducing myself? That became my drill. Hello, my name is. I am from. I am learning English. I would say it while cooking. I would say it while walking. I would imagine 1,000 different people in front of me and say it to each of them. Repetition wore the fear smooth. It took the sharp, scary edge off the sentence and made it a familiar tool in my hand. My mindset shifted from I must say this perfectly to I will make this sentence my loyal friend. I stopped running from the things that scared me. I started practicing them into oblivion. This is the alchemy of confidence. You take the lead weight of fear, and through the steady heat of repetition, you transform it into the gold of familiarity. Of course, I had to leave my room. I had to test my bricks in the real world. My first real test was a small kiosk in the market that sold foreign magazines. The owner, an old man, sometimes had English newspapers. I wanted one, just to hold it, to see the words in print. For a week, I practiced. One newspaper, please. How much is the newspaper? I practiced different scenarios. He says a price I don't understand. I practiced. Could you say that again? I was preparing for a 30-second interaction like it was a major speech. The day came. I walked to the kiosk. My heart was that familiar drum. I saw the newspaper. I pointed. I opened my mouth, and the sentence came out. It was too loud. It was too formal, but it was clear. One newspaper, please. The old man looked at me, nodded, told me the price. I understood. I paid. He handed me the paper. I said, "Thank you," and I walked away. When I turned the corner, I leaned against a wall. My hands were shaking, but in my hands was the newspaper. I had used my bricks. They had held. They had built a tiny, temporary bridge between my dream and reality. I got what I wanted, not just the paper, the proof. That proof became addictive. I started seeking out tiny interactions. A simple good morning to a foreign neighbor, asking for the time. Every small success was a deposit into my confidence bank account. The account that started at zero, that had been in deep debt, actually. Every failure, every moment of silence in the past, was a withdrawal. Now, I was making deposits, small, steady deposits, and slowly the balance began to change. I was no longer bankrupt in courage. I was building a savings. This is what no one tells you about dreams. You don't leap from nothing to everything. You exchange nothing for something. You trade silence for a sound. You trade that sound for a word. You trade that word for a sentence. You trade that sentence for an interaction. Each trade is a step. Each step is a brick. The dream itself began to change shape. It was no longer a vague, shiny picture of fluency. It became a clear path of daily trades. My dream was to lay my bricks today, to do my mouth training, to repeat my phrases. The giant castle of fluency would be built. Yes, but my job was not to stare at the blueprint and feel overwhelmed. My job was to look down at my hands and lay the brick that was in front of me today. This focus saved me. It took the enormous, terrifying weight of I must speak English perfectly and replaced it with the manageable, peaceful task of I will practice this one sound for 5 minutes when you have nothing. This is your superpower. You have no distractions. You have no other options. Your only option is to focus completely on the tiny, important thing right in front of you. And that focus, that deep attention, is where real transformation is born. Then, opportunities, tiny ones, started to find me. Not because I was suddenly perfect, but because I was consistently brave. A local hostel needed someone who could communicate basic directions to tourists. It was a few hours a week. I was terrified, but I took it. My vocabulary was simple. Turn left, go straight. The bus stop is there. I made mistakes. Sometimes I drew maps instead of talking, but I showed up. I tried. And the tourists were grateful. They didn't care about my accent. They cared about the help. That job became my live practice room. It was where my private training met the public test. And every day, I would come home and practice the things I had failed to say. The cycle continued. Practice, try, fail, learn, practice again. My dream was coming to life not as a sudden miracle, but as a slow, steady accumulation of tried and tested bricks. The feeling of having nothing began to fade. Because I no longer had nothing. I had a skill I had built with my own will. I had a voice I had trained with my own discipline. I had a confidence I had earned with my own courage. These were possessions that no one could take from me. They were internal riches. The dream that started as a whisper in a bare room was now a conversation in the real world. It was a tool that opened doors to better work, to friendships with people from across the globe, to understanding books and films that expanded my mind. The poverty of my beginnings did not disappear, but it became the foundation of my strength. It was the nothing that taught me how to build something from scratch. It taught me that the most valuable resources are not outside you. They are inside you. Your breath, your discipline, your willingness to try, your commitment to the next brick. So, my dear friend, look at your own starting point. You may look at your English and see nothing. You may look at your opportunities and see a blank wall. You may listen to fluent speakers and feel a vast, empty canyon between you and them. I am here to tell you that the empty space is your gift. It is your clean slate. You are not burdened by old, bad habits. You are not fighting against complexity. You are at the beginning, and at the beginning, you have the purest power of all, the power to lay the first brick. Your dream is valid. It is important. It is calling you, but it is not calling you to be perfect tomorrow. It is calling you to be brave for 5 minutes today. Your journey starts with a single physical act. Today, after this video, I want you to find one English sound that feels difficult. Maybe it's the V sound. Maybe it's the W. Maybe it's the I in ship. Find it. And for just 2 minutes, be a scientist of that sound. Make it. Feel where your tongue is. Change its position. Exaggerate it. Play with it. Do not judge it. Just explore it. That is your first brick. That is you moving from nothing to something. Tomorrow, you will take that sound and put it in a word. You will repeat that word until it feels like yours. This is the process. This is the sacred trade. You trade a minute of your time for a piece of your future voice. You are not just learning a language. You are building a new version of yourself from the ground up. You are the architect, the builder, and the future occupant of a life of greater freedom, connection, and expression. I know you can do this. I know it because I started with less than you. I started with a silent room and a stubborn dream. And if that is all you have, then you have everything you need. Let this channel be your daily reminder, your companion on the path. Every video here is a new brick, a new idea, a new dose of courage for you to take. So, do something for that future. Fluent, confidential. Hit that like button. It tells me you're committed to the journey. And subscribe to English Speaking and Listening Club. Let's build this dream together. One brick, one word, one voice at a time. Your dream is waiting, and it starts the moment you decide to build.